Welcome to Vitamin OC. I'm Joanna Weiss.
And I'm Whitney Gomez. Every week we bring you your recommended dose of civics and civilization in Orange County.
Today we are so excited to bring you our next guest. We have someone here that we both know quite well, and we are so excited to have Suad Elias here with us. Suad and I have known each other for maybe close to 10 years. Our children go to school together, but more than that, we have been partners in helping bring immigration legal clinics to undocumented families here in Orange County. I'm very proud of the work that we've done. We've worked with WAVE together for several years, and thank you for all you do for our community.
Thank you for all you do, Joanna. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
I was a little frightened when I went back and counted the years that we've known one another. I worked with your husband, Javier, in New York.
Yes.
And then you guys moved out here and Javier worked with my husband.
Yes.
So poor Javier has worked with both of us, and I'm sure he has a lot of stories.
It's all good.
I don't know about that, but thank you to Javier for his patience with us. I have known through Javier about your activism and all of your work, so I'm thrilled to hear more about it today.
Thank you, Whitney. I'm happy to be here. I say the Gomez family has been very consequential in our lives.
Oh, good. Good.
Yes.
Well, I wanted to start a little bit with your very impressive background. You are a human rights attorney, you have advanced degrees, and a very impressive backstory. If you could share a little bit about that with us.
Oh, well, thank you for that. So I am an attorney by training in Mexico. I worked there for a little bit. And then I went to school at Notre Dame University to get a master's degree, an LLM in international human rights law. I moved to New York and I worked for several years on the human rights field. International human rights field. So a lot of international treaties and working with NGOs all around the world until, because of the Gomez, we moved to OC and I started working then with WAVE and with other organizations in the area.
So WAVE is Women for American Values and Ethics, and we share that background. And I know you've done these immigration legal clinics with several partners as well. Can you tell us a little bit about the clinics and some of the partners we've had?
Yeah, so back in 2017.
That's right.
Yeah. There was an identified need for a lot of immigrant families, people who were in the country undocumented, to actually put together documentation to ensure they would be prepared in case of detentions or deportations. At that time, I was volunteering with WAVE to help put them together. I did a lot of interpretation with you as a lawyer. And they were successful and helpful. So that's what we've done in the past. And this time around, I think the need has come again, when immigration is such a center theme in our country. So the clinics have started again.
That's right. Well, it's been wonderful to partner on these with you for so many years. And I've enjoyed having the next generation of your family involved and having your daughter involved as my translator now too for the clinics. It's been really special. And I think our listeners would love to hear more specifically about the clinics and the work that we're doing. We've done powers of attorney, other sorts of documents. If you could kind of walk us through what a clinic looks like and the types of documents we prepare with them.
Yeah, sure. So what I've done as WAVE is we partner with the local organizations that work directly with immigrant communities. As WAVE, we have an amazing network of volunteers it's like people who are very committed to just serving and volunteering the community. So we bring amazing lawyers, interpreters, public notaries, and other people who just want to do something. So serving lunch and serving drinks, taking care of the children. So what happens is that people who again are undocumented and are in a threat to be detained or deported at any time will come and will sit down with a lawyer and prepare all the necessary documentation to be ready in case of a situation like this. What happens to my children? We're going to take care of them. What happens to my car or my bank account? We sign letters for minors to travel. So in case the children need to join the parents back in Mexico or El Salvador or wherever, now they have someone that is able to travel with them and take them out. Another important piece of documentation that we prepared this time around was passports. So ensuring that US citizen children would have a passport in case they needed to leave the country, wherever the parents were, but then they needed to come back or wanted to come back to the United States. So it's just all the paperwork that in a way, I guess we all should have ready. But in this case, because there's such an imminent threat to actually, just not being able to be in the country anymore, it becomes much more urgent. At the same time, on those clinics, we have a Know Your Rights workshops, so people can be aware and understand what the rights are as immigrants. So people also are able to update all the documentation regarding school, like emergency contacts and things like that. It's a space that allows you to answer a lot of questions and live with everything that is needed to have your family prepare in case of an emergency.
And I remember the genesis of this was a priest that we both know came to us and said, we run a preschool for families who are largely undocumented, and the mothers have started writing a note, putting it in their kid's backpack. If I don't come to pick up my child today, this is the number you're supposed to call. And this is who could pick up my child and care for them. And it was heartbreaking. And the priest reached out to us and knew that we had formed Dave and that I was an attorney and that we had lots of attorneys in the group, and said, is there anything we can do for these people? And so initially, we both reached out to other immigration attorneys, other immigration services groups that we knew, and no one was doing this work back in 2017. It was just even before Trump was inaugurated is when the need arose, because we knew there would be increased ICE activity, particularly down in San Juan Capistrano, where both of our kids attended school. And so we wanted to help, and surveying the land and realizing that no one else was doing this work. And because we were new, we were nimble and could put these clinics together very quickly. By February of 2017, we were starting to run them with your very necessary help in translating documents and putting everything together. But I'm so proud we were able to respond so quickly to this need, and heartbroken that it's needed again. But thank you for all you've done for it.
I am proud too, and just grateful that we had that model that we are able to apply now, even though a lot of organizations are doing it this time around in different models.
I know there have been some poignant stories that have come out of this. Could you share with us? I know there's confidentiality to be sensitive to, but if you could share some of the stories of some successes that we've had with the clinics.
Well, I think I'm going to pass the microphone back to you, because on our last clinic, Joanna sat down, like I would say 4 hours with one of the clients that was there, someone that had been stuck on a situation that didn't allow her to move on her immigration process, didn't allow her to get passports for her kids. She had never encountered anyone that would sit down with expertise and speak her language and actually take the time to solve the issues. And Joanna did that for 4 hours. That was not a job description for the day, but it was, I would say, a life-changing experience. And I mean, it'll be great if you can talk a little bit about that more. I would also say that in general terms, even though the topics are really heavy, because you are deciding, you're thinking of worst case scenarios. And every time you have to think about leaving your kids behind, I think your stomach just shrinks, right? But I would say that there is agreement that people live with a lightness and gratitude in their hearts, because they were able to basically take care of something that they're able to control, as opposed to everything that they can. Now they know that in a worst case scenario, things would be taken care of. And I think that is a very valuable thing. I also want to say that for the people, the volunteers that participate in these clinics, I think this is like a life-changing experience, just like the opportunity to be able to sit down with members of the immigrant community, hear the stories, connect, and just feel that you are doing something so meaningful. I think that we gain a lot when we do these things. This last clinic that we organized back in 2025, I had a woman that came, and she had a power of attorney with her that had been prepared back in 2017, right? And she wanted to know if it was still valid. And when I opened the power of attorney, I recognized the signature of one of our volunteer notary publics. So I knew we had prepared it in our clinics. And I told her that power of attorney was still valid unless she wanted to change anything. She was like, no, it's all fine. And she just said how she had kept it all these years with herself in a safe place, and how it had given her so much sense of security just to have it. And the gratitude had just continued from 2017 to the day I saw her again. So I felt that was really, really important.
So in listening to you talk about this, it's clear that you're very passionate about helping people and this work that you're doing. Can you tell us why this is a personal endeavor for you as well?
I think it's personal because I connect to it in a lot of different ways. So as it's obvious, I'm also an immigrant. I left my country to come and live in the United States. I, however, was lucky enough to have an education in Mexico and be able to come and study here in the United States. And then my husband was hired by Morgan Stanley when he met you, Whitney, and Morgan Stanley got us a green card. So we had a process without the hardship, right? But it's still difficult to leave your country and live in a different place. And it's stressful and it's expensive to go through all of that. And I can just imagine going through it when you have to be hiding and when you're risking your life, right? I also connect to it because I'm a mother, right? And I imagine the situation you have to be facing to risk your life and decide to come to a place, like crossing a desert or crossing Mexico by foot and then be here. And sometimes children, in many cases, that children stay in different countries and you are traveling and assuming you will not see your children for 15 years or more. And you are doing that because you perhaps are hungry and have no other way of feeding them. I would say that I also connect to it in a religious manner, right? I am a Christian and I feel that as that I am called to help other people and to be compassionate. I connect to it also as an American, right? Because, and I want to set an honest starting point to this conversation because I think in many cases that is lacking when we speak about immigration. The honest starting point is that we, I think, almost universally agree. I mean, I would say 99.9% of people will agree that the United States has the right to control its borders. No one wants open borders, right? We want security, we want safety. We live here, we have children here. We want the country to be safe. We also don't want crazy criminals just running around So if we set that as a starting point, we're not speaking about, defending these policies or defending people staying here that are going to damage us or attack us or damage the country. So having said that, we see again as an Americans that all these policies and all these detentions and deportations are costing a lot of money. ICE tripled its budget to be around $30 billion right now. And I think we allocated $45 billion for new detention centers. And that is all fantastic if that will bring safety to our country, right? But in reality, when we start looking at the stories that are coming out and who is being detained, and my question is why? Why are we doing this as Americans, right? And I'll give you some examples of stories. We have Laguna Niguel neighbors, a couple. They've been here for decades. They have 3 adult children that live here. They were here undocumented. They were recently deported. They had recently become grandparents and they're not longer here. We have example of a teenager boy that was driving to volleyball practice and he was detained and he didn't even realize if he had documentation or not because his parents had brought them here. And he was detained for 10 days without the family having access to that. And I can just imagine, right? This is an 18-year-old boy. Is that really a good allocation of resources? We have a woman that was just coming back from vacations in Mexico with her 3 little children and they're having a blast. And she is a legal permanent resident. So she is not here illegally. She has an authorization to be here. But it turns out that when she was in college 20 years ago, she had a small possession of marijuana, right? So she comes back and she gets detained. She doesn't know why. She goes to jail, she's mistreated, she's diabetic, she has asthma, she gets no medical treatment, gets to the hospital twice. The husband doesn't know where she is. Eventually, I mean, she gets out of the whole thing. But the trauma that it's being caused to our country, the social cost, the economic cost, I wonder why. Like that is something that I feel very personally. Like, why are we doing this as Americans? And also, I asked myself about the how, right? Because again, it's not like we don't have a right to protect the country. And you might agree, okay, these people, like this woman, yes, she had marijuana when she was on her 20s. She deserves her life to be thrown out to the window. But also, why the torture, right? Like, why wouldn't you give her medicine? Why would you not feed the people like you? So we're just hearing a lot of horror stories that make us question this sort of argument that we are going to be better because we're spending all this money doing what we're doing.
Yeah. And with the vein of setting a baseline for the conversation, you and I spoke about some of the reasons why people are undocumented. Because with the political discourse, there's this impression that everybody who's undocumented is a criminal and here to do harm. So can you talk about, in your experience, why people are undocumented and how the situation has come to be?
Sure. The immigration system is very complicated. So really, really very complicated. And there are a lot of ways in which someone might end up being undocumented in the United States. So again, we have sort of like the better known story of people who are just crossing the border here, right? And they come here again because they're hungry or because they're facing threats in their country. So they decide to come here for a better life, right? And they find jobs, right? They find jobs, they get hired, and they work in the United States. So then these people are illegally in the country, right? We have people like Marcelo, the boy I spoke about, the one that gets brought by their parents. He comes here, he doesn't even know. I mean, like, you don't have too much saying when you're 7, like, of where you're going, and you're not thinking about legal documents, right? He is in the country undocumented. Some people get hired to come to the United States, and then the visa's expired, but the economy has the demand for the labor. So they just keep finding jobs. So people might just stay. And there's no way to fix this, right? So they might be also here undocumented. You might have come through a protection, like with a visa that protects you, that gives you a protective status. And then the political, like, for example, people from Haiti, they were allowed to be here under a protective status. And then the political climate changes and that visa gets expired. So now you find yourself illegally in the United States. So there are a lot of ways in which you might find yourself illegally here. Now, there's also this sort of notion that if people really wanted to, they would just get in line and fix their situation. And to me, that is a misunderstanding of what the legal system is, the immigration system is. A lot of people do not have a line to get into. There's no process to fix your status. If you came here illegally and you're working, there's no line to get into. I think the last immigration reform that would have allowed all these people to fix their status happened under Ronald Reagan in the 80s, right? Nothing else has happened since then. Nothing significant that will give status to people. A lot of people maybe have a line, but it's a 10-year line. It's not a Disneyland line, it is a 10-year line that maybe forces you to leave the country for 10 years, apply in your country of origin, and then come back. So we have the case of Mr. Barranco. Here in California, he came illegal, like with no documents, so he's here illegally. He has 3 Marine children, and he runs his own landscape company. He gets detained and is facing deportation. I mean, he had a line, like he did have a line, but it was an expensive line. And that's also something that not many people think about. It cost thousands and thousands of dollars. And we know of a lot of instances in which people put their years of work, they save money, they hire lawyers, and then they get defrauded, right? Like, there is a lot of fraud around immigration law because people are so desperate to actually fix their legal situation that that people take advantage of them. So again, sometimes there's no line. Sometimes the line is too long. Sometimes it will risk you leaving your family for many, many years without certainty that you will be able to come back. And sometimes you just don't have the money to follow the line. So that is a very long answer of why people might be here undocumented.
I've had conversations with friends who live in different parts of the country that don't have a lot of immigrants, and they don't have personal access or know people the way we generally here do know people who are going through this plight currently. A lot of people have the perception that immigrants are in this country taking government resources, using healthcare, and taking resources away from Americans. What's your opinion on that? And what would you say to those people that have that opinion?
I think that's a very common misunderstanding. And I think it's part of what I was saying about how the conversation sometimes gets framed in a sort of dishonest or wrong way, right? But the truth is that undocumented immigrants pay taxes. Many of them pay taxes. Just California, for example, received over $8 billion with a B dollars of taxes from undocumented people. And I think for the US, the amount is closer to like $90 billion. Okay. So it's not only like a charity situation. It is something that also, again, if we are honest, it benefits our country. I'm not saying it's not a challenge in many instances. I'm not saying there's nothing that we need to fix. But the reality, again, is that a lot of industries in our country require the labor that immigrants bring. I mean, we know that with the rates, there's like tourism industry, service industry, healthcare industry, and of course, agricultural industry that is suffering, that it's sort of feeling the pinch of losing the workforce. Immigrants also, they eat and they buy houses, and they are sort of an economic force in the country. Public schools are losing children, right? Which also makes them lose funding. So in a way, again, if we recognize this as a complicated issue, not as a white and black issue, right? But a very complicated issue. And we recognize that we are helping the people who get welcome here, including myself. I'm grateful to be an American, but they're also helping the country, right? It's a mutual thing. So then we can, again, just recognize that, okay, we need this. How do we make this work? How do we stop demonizing people and, again, just accusing them? Well, at the same time, we are needing the work that they're doing. So that's what I would say.
Thank you.
I know through your description of what the immigration legal clinics do, some of our listeners might want to get involved. It's quite rewarding. Can you give some examples of how people who might not be attorneys can be involved in some of the work that we've done?
Yes. So I would say that first I would direct people to incredible organizations that are doing like the forefront of the immigration work in Orange County. And I'm going to list some, not all of them, but you need to check OC Justice Fund. Please check Unidos South OC, CHIRLA, the Rapid Response Network. These are all organizations that are doing very important work. And of course, Wave for All. We have a lot of volunteer opportunities. We have resources to get people sort of informed, because that's a way to get involved, just to be informed of what's happening in reality. And if you feel moved by it, perhaps become an ally, like get more educated and become an ally. Organizations need money right now. Like everyone that works on immigration is completely overwhelmed and saturated. So, I mean, if treasure is your thing, please bring it over to some of these amazing groups. Speak to your friends about these issues, right? If you live in one of these areas and the dialogue is that of like just, again, a black and white thing and a good and bad thing, maybe bring a little bit of nuance and information to the conversation. If you are bored and you want to go to school, become a DOJ representative, which would allow you to actually do legal representation for immigrants. That's what I'm doing now. Yes, I am very humbled by the experience of going back to school, but it's been very interesting. So there's different levels, yeah, right? Just like again, just be informed, bring your money, bring your time. Yes.
Thank you for those.
Suad, thank you so much for being here with us to educate us and others on everything going on. We really, really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. I am with two of my favorite people and the two women that I admire the most. So thank you for the chance to talk to you.
Thank you to our viewers for watching us, and we look forward to bringing you your next recommended dose of civics and civilization in Orange County.
We'll see you next time on Vitamin OC.